Being a web developer is a really sought after job these days. It comes with perks like working from home, making more money than you might have in your whole life, and doing something creative every single day and solving puzzles. For a lot of people, that's really attractive. That's something that I really, really liked about web development, and it's one of the reasons why I got into it. It's one of the reasons why I was successful with it. I love solving problems. I love being creative. I love making my own thing. So it was the perfect career for me. And many people are looking to get into that also because they're after that same drive, they have that same passion, and they have that same desire to be creative, to make more money, maybe, or even just because they like coding. So if you're here because you're wanting to learn web development, then that's what I've prepared. I've been working on a course for modern web development that shows from the ground up how to start becoming a web developer. And it's going to start with skills like just understanding the internet, all the way up to building web apps with a framework like React and Next.js. So if you're interested in that, subscribe, follow the series. I'll probably be putting it on my blog too, which I'll link down below. And let's get right into the first episode of how does the web even work? In order to be a web developer, you have to understand how the web works. You can maybe get by for a while without understanding much about the browser or servers or any kind of infrastructure. But if you don't know how the web works, how the internet works, how a website is loaded, then the chances of you becoming a successful developer are far diminished. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. It's going to be web development theory part one. And so this first thing that we're looking at is what even is the web? I'm sure many of you guys have heard of the World Wide Web, www. You see it when you type in a URL, www.google.com, for example. People mostly just say web for short. It's all the websites in the world that you can visit, just the pages themselves, not shared images or files or emails, anything like that. The web is all the websites that are connected. This will make more sense in a minute. The web, the World Wide Web, works on two major mechanisms. In order for you to access websites, two major tools must be used. First, obviously the internet, and two, the browser. Now, a lot of you may think that the internet and the web are the same thing, but hold on tight, I'm going to explain why they are not. So, what is the internet? The internet is actually just a bunch of computers wired together and talking to each other. Literally. There is a vast network of computers in the whole world that are all connected, including yours, including servers out in some big city like San Francisco, and even across the ocean. The map that you're looking at right now is a real map of cables that are laid on the bottom of the ocean that connect countries. Physical cables that span across the entire ocean that are doing the same job as you connecting a USB cable from your phone to your computer. They're just transmitting data. A lot of people think and might think that the internet is all completely wireless, that when you send a message on Facebook to your friend in Europe from the US, that it's just going across the airwaves. But in reality, a lot of what's happening is it's bouncing between computer to computer and it's going through all of these cables and is physically going from your device to your friend's device. You can see that once it gets into a country on this map, there's even more cables connecting more computers in the US. And these cables, if you follow the maps, just keep getting smaller and smaller and more condensed until it goes from the world down to a map like this of a country, down to your state, your city, and then even your block might have boxes where the internet is wiring into that box, and then that cable wires into your house maybe through fiber optics or landline or something, and then that goes from your jack on the wall into your modem, and then you get Wi-Fi from your router. So how is this different from the web? It kind of sounds like the same thing, but what the key difference is that the web uses the internet to send websites to you. You can think of the World Wide Web as a service that sends you websites using the internet as its mode of transportation, much like how if I were to send you a letter, I would use the mail service, the couriers, to send you a letter. We wouldn't call all the letters in the world the mail service, but we would send letters using the mail service. That's the difference because you can send more than just websites over the internet. Technically, if you wanted to, you can make the World Wide Web just run on a bunch of USB sticks. I could make a website, copy it to a flash drive, mail it to you, and have you plug it into your computer, and then you can search that website from there. And we could call that the World Wide Web if we really wanted to operate this slowly. Obviously, it'd probably be trillions of times slower, literally, but hey, you could call that the World Wide Web. Thankfully, we don't have to. Now, the second tool that the web uses is the browser. An example being Chrome or Firefox or Safari. The browser is actually what asks the internet for the website files and then displays them to you. And that's a bit of a high level explanation. If you know quite a bit about browsers and the internet and you're kind of listening to this and you're saying, well, that's not totally correct, it's fine. This is a basic enough explanation that I think most people will appreciate. And I think that this really is a good understanding of what's happening. So first, the browser asks the internet for the website. The internet gets the website files from the computer that has them. The computer, also called a server, sends them back through the internet. And then the browser takes these files that make up the website and builds a copy of the website which it shows to you on your computer. And you may be wondering, okay, well, my browser's asking the internet for these files, for these website files, but how does it ever find them? And also, how does it know to get them back to my computer? Well, that's where IP addresses come in. And if you've heard this term before, it might sound a bit scary because maybe you heard some nerds saying it or you saw it in high school computer science and you're not sure what it means. But it's a really simple idea without getting into the technical aspects of it. And all an IP address is a global ID for a machine that the internet uses to know where to send and receive information. This is comparable to the full address of a building. If you were to send somebody a letter and put their address on the card, that you can think of as the same as an IP address. You might have seen a number that looks like this before. This might be familiar to you. This is a representation, an example of an IP address. You have 4 octets here is what they're called, 4 numbers that make up your IP address. And I'm not going to get into the technical aspects of what each number represents, but for right now, just think of this number as an address, an IP address that tells the internet where your machine is and where other machines are. So the browser is going to have an address, and the server that is holding the files for the website is also going to have an address. And what will happen is the browser will make a request to the internet saying, I'm looking for youtube.com. I'm looking for youtube.com. And the internet will look up in, actually, it's kind of like a large phone book. It looks up in this almost huge phone book of IP addresses and says, hey, YouTube is at this address, 103.120.162.109. So it goes over to that address and it says, hey, could I get the files for YouTube because I know you have them? And then once the server gives them, it says, could you please send me back to the computer that asked for them? So it gets sent back to the computer that asked for them, and it's, hey, browser, I got the files for youtube.com. The browser takes those and makes a website out of them. So what does that mean? The browser takes these files and builds a website for you. How does it do that? It does that through 3 mechanisms that you're going to be learning a lot about during this course. 3 languages. These are coding languages, not programming, but coding languages. HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. When thinking of these 3 languages, you can think of HTML as the data that you see on the website and the structure of the website. This is the most basic information that you can get from a website: the text, the images, the links, the lists, things like that. Then the CSS actually goes in and styles the website. So it takes all that super basic information and makes it look pretty. Then what the JavaScript does is it takes that pretty website, and sometimes it's not a pretty website, and it makes it interactive. The buttons that you click, the forms that you fill out, maybe you drag and drop something, maybe there's a complex animation going on, even an image carousel or a really fun game you might be playing. This is all a lot of the time happening with JavaScript. So to think of that again, this is what HTML would look like. This is a basic website. To you, it might look like Craigslist, and that's because Craigslist is a pretty basic website. It doesn't have a lot of CSS going on. What happens then is that HTML then has CSS applied to it, and out comes a prettier version of the website on the other side. So this is the same data that you saw before, but just styled. So that's what CSS does. All it does is it transforms the website into hopefully a prettier version of itself. The difference between HTML and CSS is the difference between the structure of your house and the paint on the wall and the paint on the doors and the color of the lights and the decorations that you might put in it. And then JavaScript comes in and it adds interactivity. JavaScript is a programming language. You are going in behind the scenes and you're making things happen with JavaScript. Some examples would be a date picker, maybe searching something, a to-do list where you're dragging and dropping items, a form that you need to fill out, a clicker maybe on Spotify or something for the music. This is all something that you would control with JavaScript. A lot of the things you're seeing here is being controlled by JavaScript. This window popping up, these buttons that'll probably lead you to either the video itself or to add it to another list, that's being done in JavaScript. These buttons up here in the search engine is being done through JavaScript. All of this is being done through JavaScript. So just to overview what we've talked about and learned today, for the basics of web development theory, we have what the internet is, and it's just all the computers in the world just being connected through very, very long networks of wires. The browser that goes and gets the website files from another computer, brings them back, and then builds the website for you. IP addresses, which is how your computer knows where to go and get information from other computers. The server, which gives you the files for the website. HTML, which is the language that builds the structure of a website, the data on a website. CSS, which goes and makes that data pretty. And then JavaScript, which makes all of that data interactive and allows you to use a site in a fun or intuitive way. If you learned something from this video, I'm so glad. Please subscribe and stay tuned for more episodes to come. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments. Things that you might have missed or not understood or I didn't explain well, please ask those in the comments. I'll be sure to clarify. Thank you so much for watching. And next video, we're going to be getting into some fun things.